Greetings and welcome to today's episode of Front Page, where every weekday I summarize and find the most interesting parts of the day's headlines from 5 different newspapers from around the world. My quest is to weed out the facts as they're reported in each newspaper, and I'll do my best to find the most interesting stories out there. I'm Murat Hamami. Let's get started here at home in Turkey with the Daily Sabah. The headline reads, "Peaceful solution, a must for Ukraine crisis." Turkish President Recep Erdogan's quote. Now, on a visit to Ukraine, Turkish President Recep Erdogan offered to hold a Ukraine-Russia summit as EU leaders stepped up outreach to the Kremlin to diffuse fears Moscow could invade. The diplomatic offensive came as Russia accused the United States of ratcheting up tensions by sending 1,000 soldiers to Romania and 2,000 to Poland to bolster NATO's eastern flank. Western powers have been engaged in intense diplomatic efforts, coupled with the threat of sanctions against Putin's inner circle to deter any further attack on ex-Soviet Ukraine, despite strenuous denials from Moscow. The Turkish leader is looking to leverage his special relationship with Putin and strong support for Kiev to set up peace talks. Zelensky, of course, thanked him for the efforts and insisted he was ready to do everything possible in all platforms and in all formats to bring peace to the Ukraine. Let's take a look at this latest report on the subject.
Hassas bir döneme tekabül ediyor. Kırım'da dahil olmak üzere Ukrayna'nın egemenliğini ve toprak bütünlüğünü desteklemeye devam ettiğimizi tekrarlamak istiyorum.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan paid an official visit to Ukraine on Thursday. President Erdogan and his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky presided at the 10th meeting of the Turkey-Ukraine High-Level Strategic Cooperation Council.
Ekonomik işbirliğimizin en önemli sütunlarından birisi Ukrayna'daki yatırımcılarımızdır. Türk şirketlerinin Ukrayna'da altyapı projelerini başarıyla tamamlamaları bizleri gururlandırıyor.
In the defense sector and aviation, we had specifically discussed this issue because these are the driving engines of our strategic partnership. Our aim here is establishing joint ventures and cooperating in defense industry.
The Turkish and Ukrainian decision makers discussed all aspects of bilateral ties between their countries, exchanging views on the border tensions with Russia.
Daha önce de vurguladığım üzere Türkiye Karadeniz'den komşu olduğu iki dost ülke arasındaki krizin sonlandırılması için üzerine düşeni yapmaya hazırdır. Liderler seviyesinde bir zirveye ya da teknik düzeyde görüşmelere memnuniyetle ev sahipliği yapabileceğimizi bugünkü görüşmelerimizde bir kez daha vurguladım.
It doesn't matter where we put an end to this war. What matters is everyone should be ready for that. And on our bilateral relations, I'd like to mention that on the issues of investment and infrastructure, our relations are improving.
Several agreements and memorandums of understanding which will significantly contribute to the contractual basis of the bilateral relations were also signed on the occasion of the council meeting.
Bugünkü toplantılarımız ve imzaladığımız anlaşmalar stratejik ortaklığımızı daha ileri noktaya taşıma irademizin birer sembolüdür. Bugüne kadar olduğu gibi bundan sonra da kazan temelinde ikili işbirliğimizi her alanda güçlendireceğimize inanıyorum.
Turkey has deep-rooted political, economic and cultural relations with both Ukraine and Russia. Due to its historical and cultural bond, Turkey attaches the utmost importance to the security and welfare of the both countries. Turkey has recently offered mediation between Ukraine and Russia amid increasing tensions in the region.
Right, you're back with me again in the studio. Okay, up next, our next newspaper is the pink sheets of the Financial Times. What does the headline read? Meta worse. TikTok alert helps wipe $226 billion of Facebook's parent value. Wow, that sounds like an insane amount of money, doesn't it? Okay, now as more than $200 billion was wiped off the value of Meta, Chief Executive Mark Zuckerberg focused blame for falling profits and users at Facebook's parent company on a rival, TikTok, the viral short-form video app. Zuckerberg spoke after Meta warned that the current quarter was likely to be its slowest period of growth on record. Wall Street reacted in horror. Shares plunged 20%, leading to the biggest ever single day drop in market capitalization for any company. Now, joining me all the way from Sydney is his market specialist, Mr. Mark Humphrey-Jenner. Mark, thanks so much for joining me on a Friday. I know we don't usually see each other, but thanks for joining us on the front page. So, this is the Financial Times headline they've gone with. Tell us more about, is Facebook, is the metaverse in trouble?
Well, it's great to be with you. And in short, Meta was disappointing with the results here. Basically, they didn't hit their targets for EPS. They didn't really hit their targets for users either. So basically, we're seeing EPS was underwhelming. It was $3.88 per share last year. Now it's 3.67. Analysts were expecting 3.84. In terms of users, we had 1.86 million last year daily active users. Now it's 1.93, so an improvement, but still worse than analysts were expecting at 1.95. Similarly, monthly went from 2.8 to 2.91, but analysts were expecting 2.95. So we're seeing some really disappointing results here. The market reacted negatively because they didn't hit their forecast, or didn't hit their estimates rather. In addition to this, we've got more competition from TikTok. In addition to this, Reality Labs, which is the virtual reality organization they have, seems to be taking forever, potentially a very long time, to actually generate earnings. In addition to this, the market was comparing Meta with Alphabet. That's Google's parent company, where Alphabet had weathered Apple's changes to privacy requirements significantly better than Facebook. Facebook seems to be suffering significantly from Apple significantly restricting their access to personal data. Google, or Alphabet by contrast, has its own ability to get advertising revenue because of the way it does search terms. So a whole lot of disappointing factors in addition to the competition from TikTok, creating quite a lot of headwinds going through 2022.
I see. All right then. So we need to wait for Metaverse to make any money. Is it likely to?
Well, at some point it might. So it seems that they're hoping that Metaverse, when it eventually really gets off the ground, it might be able to make more money via transactions rather than advertising. But of course, that will take a long time. They're selling the Oculus headsets at a loss at the moment. There aren't many people actually even using them, really, although there was quite a bit of demand, but not a lot of people using them. They're being sold at a loss, like I've said. And in addition to this, there's just not much take-up really for it. And then you're going to get companies like Apple that are going to do their own headsets and try to create their own ecosystem competing with Facebook. Because we can see that that's very likely to happen.
Interesting.
In addition to this, not only that, they haven't really done all of the capex necessary for Metaverse, because they're really waiting for users to come on board. So it will take a very long time.
Interesting. I mean, one to watch for sure. Mark, really thank you very much for joining me here today on Front Page. Always a pleasure to see you, sir. Take care and stay safe. Thanks very much. There you go. Lots happening in the metaverse, or actually not a lot happening in the metaverse, should I say. And it seems like Facebook have lost around 20% of their stock shares. Okay, let's move on now to our next newspaper. Got a lot to get through. The USA Today. It's the USA Today, but it's the international edition. They've gone with an interesting headline, which I think I found interesting for you. Lawsuit against NFL long overdue. This is an interesting story. I mean, Brian Flores' lawsuit against the NFL. Why is a former Miami Dolphins coach suing the league? And how has the NFL responded? Could there be more out there? Now, Brian Flores, he has filed a class action lawsuit against the NFL in which he alleges racial discrimination in its hiring practices. NFL says Flores' claims are without merit. Flores also alleges Dolphins owner Stephen Ross offered him $100,000 for every loss during the 2019 season. In this class action suit, Flores suggested that the NFL and the team owners conduct business like a plantation, as well as criticizing the league for inadequately tackling racism in regards to the hiring of black coaches and general managers. Now, the NFL released a statement in response to Flores' lawsuit suggesting his allegations are in fact without merit and explaining diversity is the core to everything we do. Flores' attorney confirmed during an appearance on ESPN that other high-level coaches had contacted his team to inform them that they had been in a similar situation when it came to hiring policies as well as incentivized defeats. Big scandal. Let's see how that plays out here. We'll keep you posted. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to the Korea Times. They've got the elections coming up soon. They've just started basically having debates. Lee Yoon at odds over US-China rivalry. South Korea's rival presidential candidates presented starkly contrasting diplomatic views during their first TV debate on Friday. Now, the ruling Democratic Party of Korea presidential candidate Lee Jae-myung underscored pragmatism, while main opposition People Parties, the PPP candidate Yoon Suk-yeol, vowed to restore the Korea-US alliance, claiming it had weakened considerably after President Moon Jae-in stepped into office 5 years ago. Now, the event marked the first TV debate for the candidates ahead of the March 9 presidential elections. During the debate, hosted and televised by broadcasters, KBS, NBC, and a whole load of other letters, Lee Yoon's People's Party candidate Ah Cho-soon, Justice Party candidate Sim Jin-young were asked to choose among the leaders of the US, China, Japan, and North Korea who they would like to first meet if elected. All the candidates, bar one, opted to meet with the US first. Now, although the TV debate failed to touch on candidates' visions and ideas on pending state affairs, it is still anticipated that the current neck-and-neck race between Lee and Yoon will continue. Okay, our last newspaper of the day, last but not least, The Guardian. PM hit by number 10 exodus as 4 aides quit in one day. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of exodus actually out of the Downing Street. 4 of Boris Johnson's key staff have quit as the fallout from the Downing Street party scandal continued to shake his hold on government. Johnson's long-standing policy chief, Munira Mirza, was the first to go, using a stinging resignation letter to accuse the Prime Minister of scrupulous behaviour when he falsely linked Keir Starmer to the failure of bringing paedophile Jimmy Savile to justice. Within hours, 3 more of Johnson's staff had gone. Dan Rosenfield, his chief of staff, Martin Reynolds, his private secretary, and his director of communications, Jack Doyle. Now, all 3 have been implicated in Downing Street's response to the lockdown parties that are now being investigated by the Metropolitan Police. Reynolds sent a widely shared email urging staff to bring their own booze to a party, to one event on the 20th of May 2020, while Johnson was expected to clear out many of his top team in the wake of Sue Gray's report into the lockdown-breaking gatherings published earlier this week. But Mirza's resignation came out of the blue. And in the sign of Johnson's waning authority, this also provoked the Chancellor to issue a rare rebuke, as he also criticised the Prime Minister for his jibe against the Labour leader. Now, the flurry of resignations came at the end of an important day for the government, as the Chancellor sought to explain how he hopes to avert a cost of living crisis for millions of people affected by rising fuel and bills and mortgage payments. But the focus once again turned to the turmoil in Downing Street. Okay, that's about it for today. That wraps up the top headlines for you. We've covered from the USA all the way to Korea, the UK, here in Turkey as well. Now, be sure to tune in on Monday, as I'll be here giving you a synopsis of the front pages from around the world. I'm your host, Murad Hamami.